So, hi everyone. Today, for today's session, the main pointers will be regarding lists and loops. Some of you may or may not know what lists are, what loops are, but these are like the basic building blocks which are required for you to understand to build anything in Python. Okay, and these are common topics that are actually covered in almost every programming language. But today we'll be discussing regarding Python only. And if anyone wants to try, who knows what lists are and loops are, can go ahead, raise your hand. I can just pick. Anyone wants to try and explain what lists and loops are in a programming language? Can raise your hand. Am I audible?
Sir, may I tell?
Yes, Mitansh. Go ahead.
In list where this lesson is about a bullet or uneven. Like we can say, we have gone to a market and there is a list about cabbage and we have in pointers and number that first you have to broad that. And loop is a way like a number loop. Like it will be repeat again and again.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. So lists and loops are pretty self-explanatory from the description of their names as well. But on a code basis, uh, list is an ordered collection of items. Okay, and in Python it's called list, and in other languages it is called arrays, wherein basically the individual item can be a number or a text or a character, and a particular variable containing all the collection of all these items is called list. It's very simple. There's no uh, issue in that. So they can be when you can just store fruits like apple, banana, and mango, score like 88, 92, or whatever you like. But the the functions you get from Python, which you can use to manipulate and change the list items, is what makes Python a bit different because you can easily manipulate the lists and uh, split them, print as per as your requirements. So anyone who knows what indexing is, how individual indexes are managed. Yes, Sarav, go ahead. Arav, you raised your hand. Okay. No worries. So basically, in a programming language, every programming language, the first element, like for here it's Apple and here it's 88, it is represented as the zeroth element, not the first element, the zeroth. The index for this element will be zero, and for banana it will be one, and for mango it will be two. So the length of the list will be three, but the indexes will be counted as like zero, one, and two. Similarly, the length of this list will be 5, but the indexing will be like this. Zeroth element is 88, first element is 92, so second element is 75, third index is 96, and fourth index is 81. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the length is 5. We do not count the indexes from 1, we count them from 0. It's uh, it's common in almost all programming languages. So it is treated like this. So you can also use negative indexes in Python. Not every programming language provides you this. So basically, if I I'll just copy this. Okay, so here I have initialized two particular variables. One is fruit, so there is both containing collection of items. So if I just So if I want to print the first element of fruits, then it will print apple. Similarly, the second element or the first index will be banana, and the third element and the second index will be null. But if I just try to print a particular index which does not exist, for example, like 5, it will give me an error because fruits length is 3 and I'm calling an index which does not exist. Similarly, if I print 0th index for sports, it will give me 88. And if I want to print the last element, and I can also just count that it's the 4th index, so I can just print 4 and get my last element. But also, Python provides us a way where I can uh, consider this as -1, this as -2, this as -3, and so on. So if I just print this, it will give me again the last element. If I print -2, and it will give me 96. So the indexing from backwards will be -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. But from starting, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Is everyone clear about it? Any doubts regarding it? Anyone? Okay, I assume you all get what I'm trying to explain. So some useful operations also exist in lists like slicing, and uh, we also learned about the length function in the previous class as well. So what is slicing? I will just show you. So in slicing, basically, we if I want a particular section of a list wherein I can describe which is the starting and the ending part or ending index of that section, then I'll get the slice section from a particular list. So, for example, herein I can just print. So the slicing functionality works using semicolon, so using the colon. So if I specify the second index as my starting point and the third index as my exit point, and it will bring me 75 because if the second index is the starting point and this is the third point. So the index that is being mentioned is not counted. So sorry, this second index is not counted. Yeah. So if I just mention this, then it will print me first element and the second element. Yes, I have. No, sorry.
Sir, how it is useful to us?
So, like sometimes we need a particular section of a bigger array, and you want to, just perform some similar actions on it. So instead of getting the whole array and performing actions on it, you can just cut down a slice of that array and then use it in your code as per your requirements. So this is a functionality. You may or may not use it in real life implementation, but it is very important that you should know that you can slice a particular array as per your needs. So uh, you may or may not use it, but it's good to know, basically.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So herein so uh, this is the starting index. So the starting index is 92. So it is put in 92. And this is the ending index. And it is not counted because the third index is 96. But because slicing is done till here only, so only these two elements are printed. If I want to include the third element as well, I'll increase the ending index to 4. So it include these three elements. Is everyone clear about the syntax for slicing? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So another functionality is len. We used the function len in our previous class as well. So if I want to just print the length of scores. I will do it. And also, if I want to print the length of the sliced score, for example, this, then it will give me the length 3. Because as uh, as shown earlier, when we sliced scores from first till the fourth index, it showed us these three variables, so these three values. So the length is 3. So length is pretty straightforward. Also, okay, these two functions are called append and remove. So basically, if I want to add a new element to the index, sorry, to my list, so I can just append my grapes and then print fruits, and it will include as well. And similarly, if I want to delete, then I can example. Okay. So append and remove are two particular functions which are used in for basic addition and deletion of elements in uh, list. Just give me once. So anyone has any doubts regarding these two functions of list? No one, right? Because these are pretty straightforward functions by default available in uh, Python for our access. Okay. So, you can see indexes are visualized here as well, like which I explained to you earlier. So what if I try to delete a particular index that or a particular value that does not exist? For example, if I try to delete oh, write any particular text, okay, then it will give me an error that this particular element does not exist in the list that I have provided to it. That's why it's throwing me an error. So it checks that if the particular uh, section even exists in the list or not, then only it can delete. Otherwise, it cannot delete. So, any doubts regarding lists here? Then we'll move forward with loops as well. Because the list is pretty much like this, and there are fewer more operations as well, but they'll come as we go ahead. But no doubts in list, right? Everyone is clear about it. Okay. So loops. So what is the concept of a loop? So uh, loop is basically a piece of code that runs multiple number of times based on a particular specific condition. And there are different types of loops that exist. Okay, like for loop, do while loop, and while basically. Python provides us all these particular types of loops wherein I can, set a particular specific condition on which either the loop gets finished or the loop appends into a particular functionality or changes a particular part of my code. Whatever logic I have to implement into my program, I can implement. Uh, and if it requires multiple iterations of that particular piece of code, that can be done using loops. Okay. Anyone has doubt on what loops means? Okay. So let's start with a very basic example for loops. So uh, for fruit in fruits. So what this line means is basically uh, for fruit, there is the individual item in the list. So I can represent it as I as well. It does not matter. I just have to mention because this will be the representation of that particular element in the code. So what I mean by it, like if I want to print all these uh, elements one by one, I can just write I. So the loop will run individually. So it will go to the first element and then perform this particular action and see if what action is to be formed and then do it for individual elements. So herein, because I have appended a particular new element grape into the list as well. So this particular piece of code just goes and prints individual items. So this representation, if I just change it to food and if I run it, it is unable to find out what I have mentioned here. It's just giving me uh, output which is not required or which does not align to my expectations. So if I represent it correctly, then it will print all the respective values. Is added grade twice. Yeah. Okay. So this is what basic for loop looks like, and you can perform actions in this discipline. We should do that. These are just print statements that can be changed for a different output. For example, if I print this, so anyone who can tell me what this function will do? We discussed this in the last class.
So it will write the
The upper.
product in uppercase.
Okay, yes, correct. So the output for this particular piece of code will be I like individual fruits all in uppercase. Okay, with an explanation. So this is the basic functionality of a for loop. And okay, let's play with indexing. So so if I want to, okay, also loops can only comfortably run if run on lists, uh, like for a particular for loop, because it requires a list to be run on. And if I'm running a particular loop as per a specific condition, then I'll use while loop. So as there are multiple types of loops, the the main essence of using loops gets decided for my use case. If my use case requires me to run a particular loop on a very specific threshold condition, I'll use a while loop. But if my use case requires to run a loop and to perform operations on a different types of lists, then I'll use a for. Okay. So if I want
Excuse
to
me, sir.
access, yes, yes.
So can you please again explain the difference between for loop and while loop?
Sorry.
So can you please again explain the difference between for loop and while loop?
Sure, I will again explain it, but I'll start with while loops. Let- First, let's complete for loop for now. Then I'll explain what different use cases where while can be used and where for will be used. Okay. So if I want to access the index number, for index, I'll also have to declare a new variable I. So here, if I want to access the first element, then I'll just say to use the squared braces and mention the index. So what this will print is it will go into the we'll go into the fruits list and pick the first index, zeroth index, which is the first element, and then return to me lines with all uh, apple in caps for individual items, not different ones. Index zero, space.
Sir, you give good S in that.
I also have to specify for each particular list. With this enumerate function, I this is a basic just a representation. So like if I want to like uh, this enumerate function is used when I need both index and value while iterating a particular loop or a string. So like uh, start it just declares that I can go along and perform my operations in the fruits list. So this is just a declaration for it, and it is a part of syntax only. So if I want to use the index of that particular list, then I have to declare it that I can go and enumerate this particular list. So if I don't want to use the index, I just want to perform actions based on individual elements of the list. I don't need to do that. Okay. There's also one more attribute in enumerate, which is uh, already by default set to zero, uh, which is the starting index. So, like for example, if so, by default, this attribute is default set to zero. Start means zero. Like if I want to start my uh, list from the first index, not the zeroth index. So if I just mention one here, so this will not print four individual line items. This will then okay. So this is the normal output that comes if I just represent enumerate like this, and I do not declare the second attribute, which is the starting index. So if I want to change the starting index, I'll just change the starting index to two, for example. Then it will skip the first two indexes, that is zero and one, and consider the list from the second index. We'll then count with two, three, four, and five. Okay. Do you understand it? Anyone has a doubt regarding what this particular piece of code does? Hello, am I audible?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
can you please
So,
tell what does the enumerate thing do?
so, mm, so enumerate is just a function in Python, and it is used when you need both the index and value of the list while iterating, and just making the list iteratable. Iteratable means I can go along and perform actions on individual variable of that list. I can go on and perform action on the first uh, item, second item, third item as per my requirements. It just declares it, and it also provides me extra attributes which I can use in my code as per my requirement. There are only two attributes, that is what is iteratable and what is the starting index for that particular list. That's it. I just want to declare the first, which is the collect. What is the collection? And here the collection is fruits, and what is the starting index? So if I change the starting index to 1, then it will print 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and just to be more sure,
Can you again explain?
this is a I'll just print.
So when we use for, is it like very necessary to use enumerate?
No. If you require to use the index as well as the value at the same time. Here, this is the index of the loop, sorry, of the list, and this is the individual item of the list. So if I print, for example, fruit, okay, along with the index, and so let understand, I'll just remove this, and also I'll print fruit. Okay, so here fruit is the value of the first element. Okay, so this here represents if I'm only declaring fruit instead of I'm not declaring I here, then if I use fruit, then it will print me the exact value of that particular index because it will go from 0, 1, 2, 3 automatically. And if I want to show as well and use the index value for my calculations, so you can easily see that the 0th index printed will is represented by I. And if I'm using the index and value of that particular list alongside side by side in a loop, then I'll have to declare it this particular collection as enumerate. And for example, if I and the second attribute, which is start, just declares what is the starting index. That's it. So if I use the starting index as 1, okay, it's out of the let's printed. So somehow the loop is continuing. So let's stop right. Yes. So, like for example, if I need to print the index plus 1, give me all the indexes plus the value, which just states it's the first element, it's the second element, or the fourth. So, okay. So the start attribute is less used, but if you are required to use, then to use it, you have to first declare that this particular collection is iteratable. And to declare that the collection is iteratable, we use enumerate function. Okay. Is anyone still unclear about why we are using enumerate function? We're just declaring that fruits collection can be iterated and it can be performed actions on.
Okay, sir.
And okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, in the for loop function, when you wrote the code for fruit enumerate fruit, why you added a semicolon at last?
Well, that's the part of syntax. So basically, Python is uh, very sensitive to indentations. Like for example, if I run this particular piece of code, it's already giving me an error and this won't run. Because for loop, you have to indent it that uh, this particular section will be a part of for loop, and anything which is outside the loop will start from this indentation. Like if I want to print, then this print statement will not be a part of loop. This is separate from the loop and it will just print this once. But for example, if I take and indent it after this, because uh, this is then still a part of this loop, and ABC will be printed after every iteration. And to just declare that the loop, uh, the loop body starts from it, we just use it.
Okay, sir.
It's a
Thank
part of
you.
syntax. It's a part of syntax. Nothing else. Yeah. Okay. So, I've declared a new list, and wherein I want to calculate, uh, I want to print uh, the length of individual items uh, of this list. What do I have to write in here so that I can get individual length of uh, each item?
Yes.
Just uh, anyone who wants to give it a try uh, can raise their hand. Just I'll pick what I should print so that I can get the length for all the items. Anyone? Anyone wants to try? Okay. Who wants to try? So we discussed the length function, right?
Is enumerate also code?
What?
Is enumerate also keyword?
Sorry, I'm able to understand. What to say.
So like what is a keyword in Python? Is enumerate also keyword?
Enumerate is just a function. It's a Python function. It's not a keyword. Just it gives me multiple attributes. I can change the starting index of my code as well. And wherein I choose what is the starting index for fields. So I'll change uh, the connection here as well. So the length function is used to calculate individual uh, length for whatever variable I provided to it. So for example, if I want to access individual variables, I can use this operation. Okay, so what I'm trying to access here is uh, individual items for that particular index. So like if the loops runs for the first time, the index will be zero. The zeroth index of cities will be Delhi, and the first index will be Mumbai, then the second index will be Chennai, Kolkata, then Bangalore. So at each and every iteration, this particular part of the code will change every time this particular piece of loop runs. Okay, so I can print all the length by this as well. Also, if I don't want to print it in this way, then I can just directly call this. So it just prints individual length for each cities. Everyone understands how this piece of code is working, right? Hello. Any confirmations? Everyone understands, right?
Yes, sir.
So if I so use this, and I'll jump in and perform the same action. Okay. So let's move on to the next. The challenge was actually, to print each city and its character count. So if I want to print each city as well, I'll just this. I want this. Okay. Right. So after for loops, we have while loops plus a range. So in while loops, it's the syntax for while loops is we declare a condition. So in this particular piece of code where I've declared a particular variable, while count is less than 5, which means the loop will only run till the particular condition. As long as that condition is getting fulfilled, the loop will run till that point of time. For loops, the loop runs till the iteration is over. Like if I want to iterate that particular uh, list once, I can only run that loop for once. If the iteration is over for that list, that loop ends automatically. But in the while loop, if the condition is true, then the loop continues to run. And as soon as the condition fails, the loop breaks. Okay. The loop only runs as long as the condition is getting fulfilled. And this is the main difference between for loop and while loop. These both are used in different scenarios wherever it is which one is required. But the major difference is while only runs till the condition is true. Otherwise, stops. Just- So this particular piece of code, you will understand what I was trying to explain. So count.
Yes, sir.
So the count is continuing to execute. Okay. So this is continuing to execute. Can anyone tell me why it is executing and it's not stopped?
Because the count is lower than 5.
Like I'm also increasing count here, right? Because
Sir, you have not put
no,
it in the while loop.
exactly. See, because Python doesn't know if it is intended in the correct way, then only Python understands, okay, it is a part of loop. Otherwise, if you think this is not a part of loop, it will just continue to exist. Now here, now as this is a part of loop, and I just increase the particular counter every time, the loop is run for 5 times. Okay, if I just uh, change any particular, if count uh, to how many times will the loop run in this particular scenario?
0 times.
Why was that true?
Sir, because 2% of 2 is very less than 2.
So we discussed earlier, right? That the operations don't work in this particular scenarios. Like and again, story. What does percentage actually means? Did we discuss it?
The percentage means the modulus.
Exactly. The percentage means the modulus, means when I divide that particular part of code, what will be the remainder of it? This didn't run because if 2 percentage 2, which is obviously 0, so for this particular loop, it will be false because 0 means false and 1 means true. As long as this is true, then only this particular piece of code will run, right? So if I change this to 1, it will run, but only once because when the count increases to 2, the modulus will again be 0. Percentage does not mean that 2% of means 2 modulus 2. So if the remainder is 0, then the condition is not true. Hence, the loop interact. As simple as that. I can just also change it like if the remainder is greater than 0. Okay. And for all odd numbers, the remainder will always be greater than 0. Right. So if I just increase this by 2 every time, then I get the count and the loop runs endlessly because every time this particular condition is checked, it will always be false. Okay, this is see the loop is actually still running. Okay, because there is no stopping condition for it, right? It will continue to run. And if I just change it to run again, and it will only run one. And because the second time it will try to run, the condition will fail and stop. So everyone is clear why while loop is used and why for loop is used, or there's a still uh, gap in understanding the difference between these two particular loops. Anyone who has any doubt between what is the difference between for and a while loop?
Sir,
Sorry.
I have a doubt between for loop and while loop. Can you explain?
Yeah. Speak up. Speak up. Yeah. What are you unable to understand? Hello, Anshul, right?
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Actually, I'm not able to understand what's the main work of like what.
What's the what's the main what's the main work of? Okay, I'll explain it again. There might be some confusion because the first time. So um, this condition part does not exist in for. This is the main difference. Conditions does not exist in for loop. A for loop runs on lists. Okay, with a for loop can only be run on something which I can enumerate or which I can iterate. Then only for loop is valid in that particular situation. If I have to run a loop which is based on a condition, then I use while. Simple. If it is condition based, then while loop will be used. If it is based where uh, in that particular use case I need to iterate a list, then I will by default use a for loop. because to iterate a list, I need the index and the individual element, and both can be accessed using for loops. Is it still unclear? Unclear? Sanju? Anyone else who has doubt in the difference between for and while loop? Anyone? Okay. Yes, Vitan, she want to say something?
No, sir. I by mistakenly put something else there, water. That's why it was clicking again and again.
Okay. So next part is range. So there is another way of using for loops, which includes the range based syntax, which is basically uh, telling me what particular index I want to run this particular loop. So just copy this. Just a second. For example, let's say that anyone wants to guess what this will print or the
Sir, it will
understanding.
print from 0 to 9.
Sir, it will be an error.
No, it will print from 0 to 9. That's correct. Because the range function is used to it also has three attributes. So by default, if only one attribute is given to this function, then it will be the stop attribute. It has stop, start, and the third one is called step, I think, which means uh, basically consider the range, the values in the range as numbers only. Okay, so like if I want to run this particular 10 times and end it when the index which is 10, then I can directly write it this way. And if I want to use two indexes, which will be the starting and the stopping index, then if I just separate them by comma, then these, if two attributes are passed, then the first will be taken as the starting index and the second will be taken as the ending index. This will print 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till 9. Okay. So by default, the second index is the second index is what is the value for the second index? The second element, sorry.
The user second index is to make him as a stopper and not to print it.
No, I'm asking is like if in a list, I'm asking what is the index for the second element? What will be the index? What will be the index for the second element? For example, in this particular list, what will be the index for Mumbai?
Sir, 2 or -4? I mean
Huh?
1 or -4.
One.
It will be 1. -4 is a representation, but the index will be, yeah, 1. Okay. So if I'm using the uh, range attribute as 2 to 10, which means 0 and 1 will be ignored. And from the third element, it will be out printing, because this represents the third number in a particular range. And if like I want to skip one particular element, then I can just uh, use this attribute, which is this is the start attribute. Stop at what I have to stop this particular loop. So this is just another way of limiting the number of cycles a for loop is not like if I don't want to iterate into a particular list, I want to just run this particular some fixed number of times. I can set a range condition in this loop. So this will print all the even elements because the step condition has been set to 2. So it will take one, then leave one, then take one, then leave one, then take one. Then leave. By default, it is 1, and it will print all the individuals because it's not skipping anyone. But if I specify the step index, that will only return the
Sir, if
third
we
element.
have to make it
Um,
infinite, so we have not to write anything in the bracket.
Sorry.
Sir, if we have to make it infinite, so we have to not write anything in the bracket.
No, that does not solve the purpose of range. Just give me an error because by default it needs an argument. Range expects at least one argument. Dot C. This is the
Okay, sir.
okay. But you have to specify
Sir,
one. Yes.
sir, can you show how to combine this for loop with the list so as to skip the first two values?
Sorry.
Sir, can you show how to combine this for loop with the list?
So this particular type of for loop with the
Yes, sir.
list. So actually, you don't. I can't add in a list on this. I just can specify in the starting and stopping point. Can't use list on this.
Okay, sir.
So if I want to use a list, I'll have to use the this particular representation. This can is only used if I'm not using a list and I still want to use a for loop for fix certain uh, set of cycles as per my condition. It's very specific for that. So these are some challenges try like using this particular range loop to print the 7 multiplication table. We'll just see with better hands on. Okay. Okay. So these are some basic examples how loops are used in day-to-day codes. So herein we just previously just tried different types of uh, variations of writing loops, but in day-to-day working code, these are some examples wherein I can just count each label, filter each label using for loops, and predict each image for using for loops. You don't need to have an understanding of what the piece of coding is doing, but this is a very easy and basic use case where for loops are used. Anyone who reads these codes and finds uh, they're not able to understand can raise their hand. Everyone understands this?
That'll be understood.
Okay. Great. Okay. So
Excuse
this
me, sir.
was, yeah. Yes.
Sir, just a question. What does dot append mean?
The dot depend means if I want to add a new element into my pre-existing list, then I can use dot append. after the list and just add in a new element. So, for example, if I had 4 elements in that list previously, and if I want to not redeclare that list, I just add a new element as per my requirement, then I can just write a simple line saying fruits dot append and then specify that specific fruit in it. Then the list will, when the list is used in the later part of the code, the list will contain 5 elements, not 4.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. This was for today's session. I hope everyone understood what lists and loops are.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can you show us the cheat sheet day 3 and 4? I have to call. Thank you, sir.
Anyone can take the screenshot for this. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.